Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Deconstructing Hip-Hop, the show where geek meets ghetto, aka the show where we break down hip-hop classics using modern production tools. Now, picking a song to do on the show is starting to prove to be somewhat of a hard task. Not because I don't know the music or because the songs might be a little hard to reproduce, but because there are just way too many hot tracks from hip-hop's golden era that I really get caught up when I do my research. And my wife really can attest to the fact that I do spend hours upon hours on end with my headphones on at my computer while I do try to find a song that I want to cover. By the way, fellas, if your lady can put up with you retreating into your hobby of choice without getting mad at you, then trust me, you have struck gold. Anyway, as I went through my iTunes library of hip-hop classics, I came across what to me was one of the hottest tracks to come out of 1994, and that's Mobb Deep's Shook Ones Part 2, produced by group member Havoc. Now, I know that some of you underground hip-hop heads are going to say that the track was not officially released until 1995, so that I really could not have possibly heard it in 1994, but you'd only be half right. Now yeah, the song was officially released in 95, but the benefit of growing up near New York City was that I got to hear a lot of underground radio stations back in the day. Now, many a hip-hop classic was leaked onto shows like Stretch and Bobbito and the Underground Railroad. Now, the thing was that these shows really tended to be on late at night, and because they were on college radio stations that had crappy transmitters, I really had to work some magic on my radio involving coat hangers and other metal objects in my bedroom just so that I could really get to hear what was playing on the radio. Now, one of the shows that I really used to love listening to back in the day was Club 89 with Martin Moore. Now, back in 94, they had been playing this single by this group called Mobb Deep, and that beat was okay, but it didn't really do anything for me. The name of that single? Shook Ones. Then, one day, they decided to play what to me at the time was the absolute hottest beat ever made. Now, mind you, Wu-Tang Clan's music was burning up the radio waves at the time, so that beat really had to be hot for me to get so excited. And as you can probably guess, that beat was Shook Ones Part 2. For the weeks that followed, I tried my best with my tape deck and the record button ready on hand so that I could try to get the song recorded off of Club 89, but I never managed to get it. But fortunately, I was rewarded because after a few weeks, the DJs on the major hip-hop stations in New York City began to play the song, and the rest is history. Now, up until last year, nobody knew what sample Havoc had used when he made this track. But after a lot of digging, somebody realized that it was Jessica by Herbie Hancock. And you can check the links below for some information about the forum where the sample was actually shown to be what it is. Now, when I heard the original song and the way that it was used in Shook Ones Part 2, it took me a couple of minutes to figure out what exactly Havoc had done to get the sound that he did. But the fact that I heard that he used a keyboard kind of let me know what he did, so that's exactly what I ended up doing. You'll see what I mean when I put the track together. Now, what I think you really should take note of is the fact that Havoc didn't just play the sample straight through like a lot of beat makers do, and yeah, like I've done many times. He played with the pitch to make it into something completely different. Now, in an interview, Havoc said that the drums came from a breakbeat record, but if I'm to believe WhoSampled.com, and I do believe them, that breakbeat record must have sampled the Daley Wilson Big Band's Dirty Feet. Then there's that eerie siren sound that you hear in the background. And this came from Quincy Jones's The Kitty with the Broken Frame off of the soundtrack from a foreign movie. Now, I can only speculate what sampling keyboard Havoc used, but I'm guessing it was an Ensoniq ASR-10. The ASR-10 had a fair amount of sample time, as well as the necessary filters to make the sample sound the way that he did. And because the sample has a lot of hissing in the background, you're going to see that those filters really were necessary. Now, the one and only time that I ever laid eyes or hands on an ASR-10 was back in 1997 when I produced Rashid Chappelle's first demo. And I really can't believe that we expected him to get a deal off of that, but everything worked out in the end. Anyways, at the time, I was really obsessed with making beats on a computer, so I really was not that interested in outboard gear. Now, speaking of computers, I'm going to be using a couple of bits of software to put together my cover of this grimy masterpiece. Now, as usual, I'm going to be recording the samples using Wiretap Studio. Now, I could only find the Quincy Jones and big band samples on YouTube, but I did purchase the Herbie Hancock song off of Amazon, so I won't be sampling that. I'll be editing everything in a Sound Studio, and then I'm going to be loading everything up into Propellerhead's Reason 6. Now, I did try to do this on a couple of iOS apps, but I really just could not get the siren to sound the way that I wanted to. And Reason's easier to use. Anyway, before I get started, there is one thing that I do want to say about sampling music and making beats. Now, while being able to find any song you want on YouTube or on iTunes is great and all, there really is nothing like the experience of digging through some crates and finding an old record and playing it straight through so that you can find something that just speaks to you, something that you know is going to be just hot. Now, not only do you get the whole muddy sound of a dusty piece of vinyl, but you're also learning a lot about the music itself. Now, the convenience of digital music stores kind of takes away from that fun, but I'd be lying if I didn't like to be able to punch up any song that I wanted to. That being said, I think it's time to get into some music production.
Petite, c'est moins dur pour la gorge.
All right, now that we have our samples all nice and edited, I have everything loaded up into Reason. Now, since Havoc did use a sampling keyboard, or I'm guessing that he used a sampling keyboard, I loaded up Reason's NNXT sampler, which is basically just a fancy software version of a sampling keyboard. And I threw all of the samples that we had on it. The first one being the siren. It still doesn't sound like it does in Shook One's Part 2, but we'll fix that in a second. Now, you heard me sample the drum loop. The thing is, Havoc didn't play the drum loop straight out, but to me, it really sounds like he lifted the kick and the snare out of the drum loop, so that's exactly what I did. Here's the snare. Now, where did I put that kick? I think I put that kick over here. Now, the kick sounds a little muffled, and I EQ'd it and played around with some filters just to give it that same punchy feel that Havoc gave it in Shook One's Part 2. There's also another snare. All right, now this snare over here, I'm sorry, I know I hit a couple of notes there. This snare, I'm going to use at the very beginning of the song because the song starts like this. Now, this is the same snare from the sample, but again, this has just been played around with just to give it that different sound. So far we have our siren, we have our snare, we have our kick, and now we have our sample. Now, I had to fiddle around with it a little bit. I did have to throw some filters onto it, put a little bit of reverb, just to give it that same Shook One's Part 2 sound, because the original sample has a loud hiss going on in the background. Now, here's the sample in its natural form. It sounds nothing like Shook One's Part 2. But what Havoc did, he actually pitched it down some. All right, he didn't just play the sample straight through. He played with the pitch a little bit. And I'll show you what I mean. Watch as I pitch it down. Starting to sound familiar, doesn't it? Well, he pitched it down even more. So it's starting to sound like a hip-hop classic right there. So, sirens, snare, kick, hi-hat, sample. The only thing left is the bass instrument over here. All right, he probably used his sampling keyboard's built-in bass synthesizer or whatever bass sound it had built into it. So that's exactly what I'm going to do for Reason. I loaded up their Subtractor synthesizer, set it to the bass guitar preset, and I played around with it a tiny bit just to try to approximate the sound that Havoc got. So I do believe that we're ready to record now. All right, we're just about ready to start recording, but the first thing I did was set the tempo to 94 beats per minute because that's where Shook One's Part 2 is at. Now, whenever I record my beats, I like to start by recording the hi-hat, so that's where I'm going to start today. One bar should do us. All right, now we're going to do the intro snare. This one, okay? It's a little bit off, but the program will fix that for us. All right, now I'm going to record the drum loop. All right, so I pretty much finished with the drum loop. I did go in there and manually adjust the notes a little bit just to get the desired sound, and I turned off the click track. Now we move on to the fun part, the sample. All right, that should pretty much be enough to get us going. Now let's move on to the bass line, which is really simple. It's just 3 notes. Not even I could screw this one up. All right, and let's hear what we got. Now we're not completely through with editing samples. Now remember that siren? Yeah, it's not really sounding the way it needs to. I need to set this siren to loop so that I can just hold the note and it'll play continuously like it does at the beginning of Shook One's Part 2. Watch as I adjust this knob, it's going to start to affect the sound. This sounds about right. That sounds about right. Now let's do it at the loop end. All right, that sounds about right. Let's play this through. In my opinion, the essence of sample-based music production is to take an existing piece of music and make it into something that's completely your own, and that's what Havoc did. Fortunately for us, Havoc made an unbelievable track that can still get a club moving today. Now comes the part of the video where I shamelessly promote myself. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our Facebook pages. You'll find the links to all that information below. And not only will you get the videos that I produce, but you're also going to get links to other videos that I come across about recording gear, music production, studio sessions, as well as just straight up hip-hop videos. Now, if you want to see me try to cover your favorite hip-hop classic, please follow me up on Twitter at twitter.com/RogerGill79 and @replymeyourrequest. I will get back to you. Now, despite the burning desire that I have to sit here all day and punch at my gear until something nice comes out and something that probably is that's going to annoy my neighbors, I really should get outside and try to enjoy this beautiful day. We haven't exactly been having too many of them here in Jersey. That being said, I'll see you guys next time.